In this episode, we're talking about how to actually achieve your goals and not quit. We're your hosts. I'm Michael Arzalo.
I'm Chris Wood.
I'm Nate Tucker.
Let's jump into it. All right, what do you guys think is the number one reason people quit? Or, another way to think about it, in the past, what do you think has been the greatest contributor to you quitting things?
I think it's because, like we talked about earlier, they didn't set realistic goals, didn't define them well, and they just weren't realistic. And I think, so we talk about start with why a lot. And I think if you build your goals around whys instead of whats, then it's a lot easier to fulfill. A common tactic that people will use if they're trying to get more fit is, and this is kind of messed up, but they'll take a picture of themselves that they find really unflattering or they hate, and they'll have that in front of them when they're working out, or they'll have it as their backdrop, because that's like their why. Like they don't want to look like that anymore, and that's their inspiration for continuing to work out. Or kind of the opposite, they'll have someone that they want to look like. Maybe they'll have like, Jason Momoa or whoever it is that they are trying to end up looking like, and that's what they're striving towards as their why. Then on the flip side, like if your goal is to become more fit, why do you want to be more fit? Is it just because you want to look good, or is it because you want to be around for your grandkids, or when a pickup game of soccer happens, you want to be able to jump in without it even thinking about it, or you want to become a pickleball aficionado, or having the goal be based around the why instead of just the what makes everything kind of click in place.
Yeah, you took the big one that I was thinking about this, which was the whole are you doing your goals for you? I think that's very valuable. I think I think that a lot of times people kind of self-impose goals on themselves because they have societal pressure or they have outside pressure. I think a lot of people who make fitness goals and stuff like that, they aren't making them for reasons of health and improving themselves, just because of
they want to be pretty.
At Christmas party, grandpa made that joke of oh, you don't need any of the ham, or something like that. Yeah. That just burns into.
It's funny, your grandpa said that to me too.
But I think that's an aspect, and same with when people make goals. I think a lot of times they're making them from a place of insecurity. I think you should really be making goals from an area of confidence, and from a mindset of this is something that I know that I can do, and having that confidence in yourself.
Nice.
I love that.
That's really great. So for me, number one reason that I've quit stuff in the past, in theory, the result is so appealing. It's the thing that I want, but I have not really committed myself fully to what the reality is. And then when I face reality on top of life getting crazy, I then am okay, the situation, it's too chaotic for me to be able to do this right now. I'll do it some other time in the future. And also I realize now how much it sucks. It's not going to be as easy as I thought it would be. The Rocky montage, I said montage word. The Rocky montage is amazing to watch, but it sucks to do. And so I think a big thing for me was realizing that I need to learn to fall in love with the dumb, boring parts. And that's kind of been the Zen monk growth spurt for me, has been, okay, acceptance. Here are the dumb things. How can I learn to at first tolerate them, and maybe even over the long term be grateful for them, and then maybe one day even learn to love them, to realize okay, I'm doing this right now. I'm doing this because it's good for me. That feels good to be doing something for me, to make progress, and then that becomes its own virtuous cycle of, now I enjoy doing this thing that I used to hate. And that's idealistic. Not everything has gotten to that level for me, doing taxes still sucks, budgeting still sucks, but it doesn't suck as much as before, and I'm on that growth period of being I at least see the value in doing it sooner.
I think that's super relevant for business owners as well and leaders, because entrepreneurship has that sexy appeal, and like you said, the Rocky montage was awesome as a bystander, but once you do it yourself, you're oh yeah, it takes all this work. You don't get the security of a normal job, you don't get PTO or whatever it is, because it's your business. So I think, having that why to continue to help you show up and then taking the small victories and like using that to fuel you. And then as I've developed over the years as a business owner, figuring out what you really, really, really hate and figuring out how to not do that anymore, whether it's delegation, whether it's what's your list. It's like
eliminate, automate, optimize, or delegate, optimize, and then just do it.
That list has been huge for me recently because I've just piled on more and more to my plates. But actually over the last 2 months, I've actually started like stop twirling some plates. Like I stepped down from a planning committee. I've let one of the things I volunteer with know that in July I won't be doing it anymore. Now I've also volunteered for other things, but I'm trying to.
But past you would have just kept adding on without
exactly. I'm trying to be a little more picky and choosy about the things that I'm actually signing myself onto, because my time is less available, and it also has a bigger impact than it did before. Whereas when we started Decaffeinated, it was me and Doug, and we just worked 6 days a week as baristas. And like it was super important that I was a barista because that was how we made money. Now my job, if I'm a barista, it's kind of a waste of money because I should be doing stuff that has a bigger impact on the long-standing vision of the company. For example, we're working on opening a new location right now, or working on wholesale clients, and so like kind of keeping the snowball going. And also my job is to remove roadblocks from the people that make the business keep going. So 2024 for Decaffeinated is all about quality control. So how can we make sure that we have the systems in place to make sure that our coffee keeps tasting good, that our baristas know how to dial it in, that we know how to make sure that our pastries are going out right, just all these things. And then what are the bad things that our baristas run into? How can we make them less? How can we make things more efficient? And so if I was going into the kitchen, that's definitely useful. But if I can instead do things that helps all of our baristas at the same time, that's incredibly more impactful. Not always fun, but it's also like super helpful. So kind of putting that framing around it and looking at what you're doing and what your goals are and framing it in those whys, and then trying to get rid of the energy sucking activities that you hate and don't want to do, and building up your team around that. But that's like two very different stages of entrepreneurship. There will be a stage down the line where it's even more crazy for me, I'm sure, and I do even less on the front. But yeah,
that's good. I think it's heard someone talk about, it's like you're doing the things that only you can do, and anytime you're not, you're losing some of your leverage that you could be having.
I heard someone call it like buying back your time. Like if you can put a number on what your time is worth, and you can pay someone that same amount to do it, then you should do that so that you can work on the things that you can't afford. Which I think is huge.
What are some things that have helped you to make it easier to stick to things? So when you think back to the times when, oh, you know what, I did stick to this and I got this awesome result. What has been some of the stuff that really helped you do that?
So definitely, this is something we talked about before. Accountability can come in the form of other people, which is super valuable. Sharing your goals and things that you're working on with other people can lead to you getting more done. I think we all have had those moments, if like where procrastination can easily take over. And then as like small business people, it's so easy for like the fires, to get like us caught up in those, where like we can forget about, that big awesome idea that we had that we write down, and we're like, oh, can't wait to work on that. And then it's like, just weeks of survival mode, And then once you get back into Thrive, you're like, it gives you something to do when you could be working on that big project.
It's kind of falling off the wayside. You forget about it.
Exactly. So I think that's where it can be really valuable to be like talking to other people about those big ideas and how you're going to make those happen. Even when you're in that survival situation, still thinking about them and like how you can push towards that just so they don't fall off.
Like keeping it on life support, just like at least think about it.
I think we talked about it last time, but analyzing yourself and seeing your own pitfalls. Mine, we're like 99% sure I have ADHD. And so like body doubling is incredibly important. So which is just literally working next to someone. You don't have to be working on the same thing. You don't even have to talk to each other, but just the fact that there's someone next to you that's also working makes it easier to work. We talked about it last time as well, but like Google Calendar, having physical lists. Nate's been killing it, and HiveThink just kind of putting everything down and talking about what's urgent, what's important, assigning tasks to people instead of it just being a thing. Like we've had issues in the past, especially with HiveThink, where we all agree, that needs to be done, and then we forget to it's the bystander effect. Like you need to point to someone and say, hey, you call 911, because otherwise no one's going to call 911 in the emergency. But I think the biggest one for me that tends to spark the most stuff is like collaboration. I do a lot better when I'm in a creative environment with other people. So whether that's like networking events or brainstorming sessions or vision boarding or whatever it is, I found that that's where the gold nuggets always come from. And so with Be Caffeinated, we do our manager meetings every 2 weeks, and we try to reserve some of the time for like, hey, what are some things that we want to work on or ideas we have? A lot of times it'll fall into just like, hey, what do you need done this week? And they're like, oh, well, this thing's broken or whatever. And that's good, but we're going to focus more on like, what are some long-standing goals that we have, and where do we want our Red Bank location to be in a year? Where do we want our North Shore one to be in a year? What are some goals there? And then everyone together can come up with better ideas than just talking to the people from that specific shop, because everyone has a holistic view. And then like with Coffee Break, I'm excited to, it's our community building event that we have. It'll be this coming Friday when this comes out, January 12th at United Way downtown. Oh wait, it might have already happened at this point.
Either way, come to the next one, second Friday of every month.
But we're gonna talk to the people that go and be like, hey, how do you want this event to be? And have that open collaboration component, because we're pretty smart guys, but we're only 4 dudes. Like they're gonna have so much better ideas of how they want the event to be. Just opening that up to people and listening is the important part too, and being willing to change. So
that's huge. I think what you were saying, both in this episode and the previous one, about figuring out how you work for what works best for you is kind of the ultimate hack.
Yep.
But it's really, really hard to do. If you're one of those people out there that's naturally like crazy introspective all the time, then maybe you are amazing at this. But for a lot of us out here, it takes a lot of just pain and repetition of doing things in ways that don't work for you in order to finally learn the lesson of how things do work for you. So for me, for instance, I've kind of realized that passion and obsession are kind of what works for me.
Yep.
I think, my own version, my own flavor of ADD is that it's really hard to focus on things, except when it's something that I can put all my focus into and I lose myself in it. And then I'm like, 10 hours went by. Like when I think back to the ultimate version of what I've stepped to, I think I picked up a guitar one day for the first time to really play it. And then for years, I practiced like 10 hours a day. Wake up before school, practice. Think about it during school. Like get home from school, pick up the guitar, play. Talk to people while I'm playing. Watch movies, be trying to figure out the theme songs while I'm playing it. Go to sleep, be dreaming about guitar. And like that obsession is really huge. Where that's getting me into trouble is sometimes you have to do things that are not within the obsession. So for me, it's figuring out like, how can I hack my brain to tell myself that doing this thing over here is going to help my obsession get to be done.
That is the same thing, kind of like it is part of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like doing dishes does not seem like it's doing the dream, the obsession. But if I let the dishes pile up, I'm going to have to do them eventually. And that day is going to be really stressful and take a long time. And on that day, my flow is going to be all off. And it's going to mean a really hard day to get into the obsession. So you know what? If I just do the dishes today, it'll make staying on the course of doing the thing better. And so both in the macro way that works, but also in the micro of like things I do at work, like I've worked on the website branding and stuff recently, and I'm like, I got really lost into it. Let's play with these colors. Let's do this illustration. Setting up stuff for the podcast, like figuring that out. What are the questions going to be? This is like, oh yeah. But the things that I don't like, I've been like, okay, if I do this thing, it'll mean I get to do the fun task, but with more freedom, without this like other task hanging over my neck to make me stressed out. And so it's still about how can I make the thing I'm obsessed about at work in business and whatever in marketing, how can I figure out how to line the things up well for me? And that's just a me thing. It's not going to be for everyone, but for some of you out there, I think that'll be huge. But
I call it like eating your vegetables first. Like when I think I learned this as a kid because my mom was like, you can't leave the table until you eat all your vegetables, which isn't a great idea, I think. But sorry, Mom. But now when I have a fully balanced plate, I always eat my vegetables first, and it's not because I want to eat vegetables. It's because I want to eat everything else, and so I don't want the vegetables to get in the way of the steak and potatoes. So I'll eat those first, and they're usually still good. Like I like vegetables now,
just not as.
But like mentally, I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for the the good stuff. So that, and then another line and idea we've been tossing around recently that Blake with New Wave just reminded me of is planning for success. One thing that I think we've done really well at Be Caffeinated is planning for where we want to be, not where we are. And it can be really risky and scary and give you sleepless nights and make your wallet thinner. But if you're thinking about 5, 10, 20 years from now and not 5, 10, 20 days from now, then you can really build up a huge foundation and get way further ahead than anyone else because they're worried about what are we doing next week and not what are we doing next year. And I think that's been huge for us because from the start, we've known we didn't just want to do one shop. We've known we didn't want to just do 4 shops. We've known we want to like blow it up. We've known that vertical integration was important to us, both from a quality control side and from a like business wisdom side. So when we saw the opportunities for starting the roastery, we did it. Whereas if we hadn't thought about that, we just would have let it, go by us. When we saw the opportunity to bake our own stuff, we took it instead of just letting it go by. When we saw the opportunity to start a marketing agency, we took it instead of just letting it go by. Whereas if we didn't have the mindset of we plan to grow and be successful, then that wouldn't even be on our radar. So knowing where you want to be, why you want to be there, and what your purpose is in doing it, I think is super impactful because your brain starts picking out those patterns and picking out the opportunities. Whereas if you're not even thinking about it, they'll just go right by you. Kind of like the yellow car thing where if you're looking for a yellow car, you'll see them everywhere. You're like, oh, I see so many yellow cars.
Yeah.
It's the same number. You're just noticing them because that's what you're thinking about.
No, that's great. I think that's one I want to chew on more for my own self.
And real quick on what you were talking about, I think looking at future you as a different person and being like, man, I want to treat them right and do nice things for them. So like with the dishes, it's not for present Michael, it's for future Michael. So you're doing them a favor and you're setting them up for success. So like present Mike, it's going to suck, but you're paving the way for future Mike. Yeah. And I think that's pretty huge to think about it as like a different person and not.
Yeah. That's I really like that. Because I tend to like a lot of weird mental models that make me think about future self.
It's like buying your time, but for yourself.
I've actually been catching myself asking this question because I think of when the dishes pile up, or that's like the small, like tangible version of it. Yeah. But any version of overwhelm and like business and marketing, where you're like, I've been meaning to do that thing, but I haven't done that thing, and now I have to do lots of that thing.
Like tax.
For that, all this stuff, I've been catching myself. Like, for instance, the other morning, I blew my nose in the bathroom, and I threw the thing to go in the trash, but it fell on the floor. Normally, I would let that happen, and then I would do it again, and some other version, and then all of a sudden, I have all this stuff on my floor, and I'm like, now I have to spend an hour cleaning my bathroom. Yeah. And that's like a mini tidal wave, right? And then, obviously, there's much worse versions. But I've been catching myself when I do something like that. I dropped a piece of trash in the bathroom. I'm like, I've been asked myself, hey, would that create a tidal wave if this keeps happening? And I'm like, yes. And so then I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then I've actually been throwing it away. So the pain avoidance has been really helpful for me to be like, I don't want to experience that pain again. Yeah. And it always is easier to do when you recently experienced the pain. And for holidays, I had to clean my bathroom like crazy. We'll sort it. Okay, I'm going to set up this next question for us. So a big part of sticking to your goals and projects is the skill of picking yourself back up after things take longer than you hope or don't go as well as you hope. So there's a disappointment result or like a setback of some other kind. Especially in the world of business and marketing and creativity, It can be a real punch in the stomach when you've invested all this time and for whatever reason it doesn't go the way you want to. So I feel like most of the times those that master bringing themselves back to a happy or optimistic state tend to be the ones that can really push through the hard times. So the question I have for you guys is, what have you found to be the most helpful to rekindle your optimism and your hope when you're down?
Yeah, I think that a big thing with this is being able to look back at things, one, as learning experiences, and two, being able to look at things as there is no such thing as wasted time. Because as long as you walk away with new knowledge or walking away with like a new experience, it can be worth it. Because, you know, even if that thing didn't work out, now you've learned that thing doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You've learned how to do it better the second time. I often, like, with saying goals, sometimes I'll think about them in like terms of like almost like a percentage, you know, of like, if you can do, you know, lose the 10 pounds, then awesome, you reached 100% of your goal. Versus like, you know, and then maybe 2 months later you got on the scale, it's like, I only lost 9 pounds. That's 90%. That's pretty good. Yeah, pretty dang close, you know? I think stuff like that can be a good way to kind of view things. It's like, you know, you're working towards something. And even if when you get there, it isn't like quite what you expected, you get to look back and go like, okay, I figured out a lot of stuff from this and we can build off of that.
Yeah, I am a hopeless optimist, which has definitely bit me in the ass a lot. I don't know. I wouldn't change it for the world, because I think it's why we've had opportunities in certain ways when we may not should have. We've had a few pretty rough employee situations over the last 4.5 years. And some of them have hit me pretty hard, just like mentally. And there was a while, Michael knows this, he was basically my therapist for a while. A few of them really shook my like core beliefs and like trust in people. But I think what it came back to was, it's not fair for me to not give future people the same potential and opportunities because of past people's failures. Now, what we've done is change the stakes and change how we go about stuff to kind of mitigate potential risk and downfalls. So there's definitely that learning and growth, but I think it really it broke me down to the point where I was like, why am I even doing this? Like, do I even want to do Becaffeinated? Or like, why does this exist? And then I kind of came to my why, and it was like one of those superhero origin stories or whatever, but I realized that I was doing this because I want to help people get opportunities to do things that make them happy. And part of that is that some people are going to fail, some people are going to not get there, and some people are just not at the right time in their life to take advantage of that chance that I'm trying to help them get. And so what I kind of reframed it as, especially with employment, is there's like an agreement between us and the employee. We have our like employee manual that spells out like, these are the things we expect out of a barista. If they like, it's not us writing them up for being bad or whatever. Like, it's not us attacking. It's us saying, hey, you didn't hold up this end of the contract that we've made. Yeah. And this is just written proof of that. And if you continue this, like, this is the like path that this leads to. So it's them deciding not to uphold their end, then it's not a failing on our part. The failing on our part comes when either we don't communicate with them that they are messing up, because then they don't know to fix it. It's a failing on our part when we don't give them the opportunity to fix it. And it's a failing on our part when we don't define what success looks like. But framing it in that perspective rather than putting it all on our shoulders was helpful. And then remembering that the whole purpose of this is to make people happy, and like, it's not always going to work. That was a long way to say that, but yeah, it's been an intense journey, and I think I'm happy where I'm at with that. And I think it helps us be able to help other business owners with their employee struggles, because people are complicated, and people say that people don't want to work, but it's more they just don't want to work for you because you're not a good employer. I don't know, so do better.
Your bar. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like, so even like thinking back to the question, so what have you found to be the most helpful to rekindle your optimism, helping you down? For you, it sounds like, hopeless optimist, that as long as the things aren't actively still bringing you down, the optimism just kind of comes back up. But in the dark times, the big thing for you was figuring out what perspective are you having that is not helping you, and then it was a matter of
fixating.
What is the right perspective that will help me see this in a different light?
Yep.
And then
you helped me with that. You asked me these questions that was like, why are you looking at it this way? What if you thought about it this way? And I was like, oh wait, that's what happened. That is what happened. And looking at it that way is way healthier than because I looked at it as like, why did this person like basically screw me over or betray my trust? When really it was like this person just at the time wasn't in the right season for what was happening, or was worried about this or fixated on that. And it was extending that empathy that I would have wanted extended to me if I was in their shoes.
Yeah.
And that, like, I don't know, that emotional intelligence of these people aren't like doing it to you. You're just part of their current situation, and sometimes it'll work out and sometimes it won't. And making that the objective part rather than making it personal is what really changed it. Because then I can be like, oh, that just didn't work out. Let's try it on the next person, instead of, oh, everything sucks because it didn't work out.
Yeah. No, that was a good growth path. Okay.
It's painful.
That was bad. But yeah. All right. So last question, but definitely not the least. Did I talk about what kindled my optimism?
No,
I didn't. I guess I should. Yeah. So for me, I think it's a very similar thing of figuring out like what's the perspective I need in order to make things still better, so that I can actually change things. Because I, in the past 7 years, have had the lowest lows I've ever had. Oh, I had some good times. I've had medium times. I've had really great times. But I definitely had the lowest lows I've had, not only for days at a time, but sometimes months at a time, or even years at a time. And it was honestly like, just like Sisyphus boulder. How do I survive this crushing weight? Because when 99% of your life is survival, you only have 1% of like, if you're in a dark room of survival and the door's cracked only 1%, you see just the barest glimmer of hope that things could ever be better. And like, that's the extreme version, right? Sometimes the ratio is different, but for some of the dark times in my past 7 years, both like creatively, career-wise, entrepreneurially, like there's that 1% of hope. But if there's a 1% of hope, then I know that if I can act on that 1%, then the door can crack open a little bit better. Because if I were to do whatever it takes to materialize that hope, then all of a sudden from that vantage point, maybe there's 2% of light that I can see of hope. And if I can get that too, maybe it's like 5% more, And so I just always remember that like I can't control that I'm in the fact that I'm in a sucky situation or a sucky time, or just feels bad, or feels like it's never going to happen, like the good stuff. But I always have the ability to try something. And I think I really get inspired by storytelling. And one of the things that's really huge about characters and story is that, yes, we like characters that are really good at stuff. Like, if you know nothing about a character, but in scene 1, they do all this epic martial arts stuff and fight all the bad guys, you're like, that guy's pretty cool. But the thing that I think we love characters the most for is how much they're willing to try, even if it fails a billion times. If you see a character and they like try something, it fails, it backfires, things get worse. And each time it happens, it's like, damn it, the thing I did is causing the next bad thing. But the fact that they're willing to keep trying, that's what makes us love them. And so I've realized for myself that in whether the creativity, business, relationships, whatever, whenever I'm actually trying to find that hope and then act on it, I start to inspire myself, and I start to like build pride, like good natured, like pure, like I'm proud of myself. I have self-esteem kind of pride. And when you do that enough times when you're down, you start to realize you're the kind of person that can pick yourself up no matter the hard situation. You get to be Harry Potter when he thinks it's his dad who saves him from the Dementors, And instead, you realize like you're saving your own ass.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that you don't get help from other people. Harry had Hermione, Harry had Ron, but it does mean that you have to play your part. And even if some of the times in the worst of things for me, I could only do like one meaningful action a day at that time. But I could like pick what that action was and do it. And if I did, I'm like, okay, I'm still making progress. Even if it's a snail's pace of progress, it's still progress. It still counts.
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah, I think it's all about accountability to yourself and understanding that optimism is a choice, and what you focus on is what you'll see, kind of like with the yellow car still. But if you're constantly negative and you're like, man, this sucks, everything sucks, my life sucks, people are doing this to me, then that's everything you're going to see. But if you're like, this happened to me and not at me, or this is just what happened randomly or whatever, however you want to look at it. But if it's not to me or at me and it's more like this just happened, then it's easier to be like, well, it could also just happen in the positive way.
Yeah.
And then taking ownership of the steps that improve your chances to get to that outcome. And not just letting it be random chance, but improving your odds. And taking out, like, as Wayne Gretzky and Michael Scott said, you miss every shot you don't take. We've had some crazy opportunities happen just because we asked. What's the worst they can say? I mean, they could be mean, but generally it'll be no. But
and it's not so bad. Just be told no. Okay. All right. You reminded me, or maybe I reminded me. I think we both reminded me of this thing. I realized I heard someone talk about every single amazing entrepreneur, every single artist, motivational person. Essentially, they're all saying the same things, which is in every single moment, you have the choice to act as the victim or the warrior. Those are your two options. What is the path where you have a say in the matter, and where is the path where you are giving in to whatever the pressures are, and you're saying those get to decide my life versus I get to decide my life.
It's like fate versus being the captain of your own soul.
And it's like even down to like Viktor Frankl stuff, where it's like, you're in captivity. You literally have no control over so much of your life. He still chose to be the warrior and like was like, hey, I am in captivity, but I get to choose even this small amount of what I think in my own mind. That's what I get to choose. Nothing else, but I could still have something. He still got to be the warrior and not the victim. It's really cool. All right, so last question, definitely not least. If you could only offer one bit of advice to people on how to sustain their goals through the ups and downs of life, what would you say?
So we've thrown around the word optimism a lot, and optimism is incredibly valuable. It definitely is something like I live by, but a word that I really feel a strong connection to is enthusiasm. And I remember when I was in high school one time, a friend sent me like this picture that is like a church sign they'd seen. And on it said, enthusiasm is the best protection for any situation. And they were like, this is literally you. And I think that's something I've really like exemplified through life and really taken to heart, is the idea of like enthusiasm is like mind armor. It's the idea of like, and when I say enthusiasm, I don't mean like, you have to do the dishes and you're like going like, yippee, I love dishes, like fake, like
it's not Pollyanna.
Yeah, it's like the determination of like, we're gonna do the damn thing. I think like that's been incredibly valuable, is just approaching things from like that standpoint of like, it needs to be done and it's going to get done. It creates like this just like level of confidence within yourself that I think a lot of people can be lacking at times. But when you approach things with that attitude of like, I'm gonna do it, I think that can be really what makes a difference.
You think that's synonymous in this case with passion?
It could be. I think it's all mindset, where passion's fantastic, but again, like it can be hard to have like passion to do the dishes. It is that mindset of like, it's gonna happen. I think it very much for like almost like the militaristic standpoint, like, here's objective, do objective,
It's like the action verb of optimism.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think optimism is like, it'll work out in one way or the other, because like worst case scenario, you're learning from it. If it doesn't work out, best case scenario, it works out. And I think the enthusiasm is getting to the point where either it doesn't work out or it does. And doing the stuff that's not fun and is fun and everything in between.
Yeah.
I think mine's very similar to yours, Nate. I think it's switching from will I do this thing to I will do this thing. I think along with that, it's like a small bit of, you see people that go on American Idol and that suck at singing, but they have the persistence, they have the stick-to-itness, but then they still fail, right? I think there's like, I'm going to commit to it, and then there's this other aspect to me of it's that plus be like water, like Bruce Lee. It's, I'm going to do it. Maybe this one won't work, but I'm going to be like, okay, just like a Looney Tunes cartoon. I tried this way, boom, got hit by a piano. Boom, I can't try this way, fell off a cliff. Go this way, okay, it finally works. And it's that on the big scale of like, I'm going to do this thing. And it's also on the micro scale of like, this thing is stopping me. I'm going to find a way. This thing's stopping me. I will find a way. And I think that for me is like the ultimate thing, because without the be like water part, I think we sometimes can become the American Idol bad singer and do that for 30 years. But the constantly being like water and saying like, what form do I need to take now in order to move to the next part of my journey? And that's led me to lots of crazy different things. Like for instance, having an accountability buddy with my buddy Andrew, where we text each other every day what we're working on. Did we do what we said we were going to do or not? Like that was literally came from, I keep trying to do this thing and I keep failing. And I've tried this and I've tried this and I've tried this. And then I ask myself, is there like a thing I could do that would make all of this goal achievement stuff easier? And I was like, accountability. And then I tried to go there a bunch of ways that didn't work with that, like even paid ways online, trying to find accountability. And then ultimately I was like, who's the most reliable friend that I know that also does creative projects and I think could help me grow this? And I also think I could help them to not be the American Idol person. I'm good with perspective, they're good at stick-to-itness. And so I was like, that's Andrew. And then it's been, I don't know, a year maybe doing that. And we've come a long way in all the things that we're trying to do. Which is just an example of what I think that ultimate advice is like. Just like you were saying, like commit to it. I will do this thing. There's nothing that will stop me in this world. I don't know how long it'll take, but I'm going to get there. And then being flexible with the approach.
I think my answer is community. Finding your tribe or people with similar values, either to help you do the thing or to complement your skills to do the thing, or to hold yourself accountable, or to help you maintain your enthusiasm. I think no matter what your lever is, it always works better in a community. So for example, Walnut Street Publishing is a local publishing group in town, and they have a Discord. You should join it if you haven't. But the guy that runs it is Aaron Quinn, and he is so good at providing a space for people to feel encouraged and to be productive, whether it's like canvas art or poetry or writing or whatever it is. And their whole purpose is to just help creatives do their creative function. And so there's communities like that. There's networking communities like Coffee Break, Nugan Networking, the Chamber of Commerce, BNI, and just kind of trying them on like shoes until you find the one that fits. It doesn't have to fit perfectly, but as long as it's helping you not step on nails, that's kind of the purpose. And if you don't find the community you need, why don't you try making it? That's part of why we made Coffee Break, is because there was just something that wasn't quite being fulfilled by the networking groups in town that we wanted to add. And that's what our goal is to complement the other one so that there's a more holistic approach to networking with our perspective in. And that perspective is we want to make a space where the nonprofits and the small businesses and the creatives and the resources, all four of those, feel like they belong there. And then it's not just focused on one or the other. And to help them promote that intersection and they all grow together. So yeah, I think community is huge. It helps you no matter where you're at. We've talked about it a lot in the past, but that's why we love Be the Change so much, is that's their whole goal, is to make community wherever they're at, whether it's in schools or anything. So yeah, I think community.
That's awesome. Now we're going to turn it to you guys. what have been the things that you struggled the most with when it comes to sustaining your goals and actually following through on them? And then what's helped you the most? So I think that with that, we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
I'm Michael Artizabal.
I'm Chris Wood.
I'm Nate Tucker.
See you next time.
This has been HiveThink NPR. Just kidding, not any good.